It's our turn, episode number 86, Superheroes and Necromancers. In this episode, Jesse and I talk about the games we've played recently, and I interview Diane and Nick Sauer about their game, Born to Serve, and Sarah Reed interviews Daniel Bishop about his game, Nevera Duels.
This is the Dice Tower Network, adding games to your wish list since 2005.
Hosting for this episode is generously provided by our fantastic supporters on Patreon.com. If you'd like to help us out by pledging $1 per month or more, please visit patreon.com/OurTurnPodcast. Every dollar helps us to keep this show going strong. Hi, and welcome back to Our Turn. I'm Cathy Ford, and today in the guest host seat, I am joined by my good friend, Jesse Metcalf. Jesse, welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
So we always start the show off by sharing the game or two that we've been playing lately. Jesse, what have you been up to?
As I mentioned on Twitter as a spooky October post, I have not played any games this month. I hope to, at least any board games. I hope to fix that in the coming weeks. This weekend looks promising, but no guarantees.
RPGs count.
Yeah, so I have been playing a lot of Dungeons & Dragons,
Woo.
5th edition. Yeah, my semi-regular group meets twice a month, and we have been going through Curse of Strahd, which was trucking along pretty good, but I think I'm at the point of GM burnout, and we're going to take a break from that to either focus on playing board games or maybe have someone else run something. To be decided. I've also been recording every Monday for Nerdy People Play D&D. That's an hour every Monday, which is actually Tuesday afternoon in Australia, where it's being recorded. It's kind of fun to play for 45 minutes at a shot once a week, and it's nice that I have some recollection of what goes on, because I take notes and I have a recording of what's going on. So.
And that's a role-playing game?
Yeah, we're playing Dungeons & Dragons, 5th edition. We're doing a live play. And we're in Season 2. I think Episode 3 of Season 2 is when Valorax, my character, makes his first appearance. And the rest of the gang's on a quest. Crystal Paisano is one of the cast members.
From Board Game Blitz. Uh-huh.
Yeah, from Board Game Blitz. And we also have Ethan, Tyler, and Josh as the DM. The rest of the group is already established and already on a quest. I'm just kind of a mercenary sellsword trying to figure out what my motivation is, because, yeah... It's interesting. So, and then this last 2 weekends ago, beginning of the month, I went to NukeCon briefly, which is a 25-plus-year-old gaming convention in Omaha, Nebraska, and I got to play some D&D Adventures League. If Dungeons & Dragons were pizza, I would consider Adventures League to be the frozen pizza of the game.
Oh, no.
It's good.
When you really need a pizza fix.
Yeah.
When you really need a D&D fix.
Yeah, it's because they're 2 to 4 hour sessions. It is very much a game on rails. There are very few meaningful decisions to be made, and not a lot of time for role playing. And when you meet up with a bunch of strangers, you run into those people who think role playing is talking in a funny voice and dominating conversations. And when you're playing the bard and everyone's talking over you, so you can't, use your charisma and persuasion to do things, it's a little frustrating. So,
I can imagine.
Yeah, it's an MMO, just not. It's a massive multiplayer offline role playing game. But I think I really like it for what it does for D&D. But I prefer a home game with role playing and in-depth conversation and that sort of thing. So, I think. Like pizza, I have eaten way too much of it, and I need to find something else to feast on role-playing wise. So maybe some sci-fi or horror in the future. But anyway, been playing a lot of D&D. That's one of the things I've been up to.
Obviously, since you've been into it, you must rate it about a 5, even though you're overdosing on it.
Oh yeah, I think 5th edition is probably the best edition, arguably, of Dungeons & Dragons. And I've played since the Red Box in '83. So all the AD&Ds and D&Ds up to then, and basic D&D. And yeah, this one's got the best balance of ease of play, easy rules, easy to adjudicate, easy to DM, but yet can still create fantastic and complex stories. So yeah, it's a 5.
I've been enjoying it too. I joined a D&D group with my friend Doc Cross. Hi, Doc. And my husband, Mark. Hi, Mark. And we've been having a blast with it. And then I went and got a new job. And my new job requires that I work on weekends right now. So yeah. I have been missing playing D&D because I told him, this is going to be my schedule until at least November. So I've gone off on my own little side quest or something. And I'll join the group back up again later. But yeah, I've been missing it too. And I've really been enjoying D&D 5th edition as well.
Yeah.
But I have been able to get a couple of board games to the table, and so I want to talk about those. The first one is called Little Circuses. Have you heard of this one?
No, I have not.
My friend Dwayne found it at Half Price Books. It is put out by IDW, which is the same company that put out one of my favorite games, Yato. And in it, you're all working on your own little circus, putting together your circus. And each turn, there's 2 stages to it. The first stage, you have 3 different options. You can take money, you can buy a tile, or you can build a tile onto your circus. Now, these tiles each have colored rings on them, and you're trying to do set collections of one of each set of colors. So there's red, purple, yellow, green, and blue, and you're trying to do sets of 5. Of those colors. For every set you collect, it's worth 10 points at the end of the game. Yellow is apparently really rare. My friend Frank got, I think, 1 yellow tile the entire time he was playing. Oof. And Dwayne kept pulling these tiles, and he just kept getting yellow after yellow after yellow. And then the other thing that you can do, the other half of your turn, is you move your spotlight around, which is represented by a little yellow disc. And you move your spotlight to one of the rings of the circus, and you get to collect the rewards. There's some icons on each tile. They're different on almost every tile. There are some duplicates, but mostly they're different. And so these tiles allow you to collect victory points, to put people in your bleachers, to promote people up the bleacher ranks. There's different sections of bleachers. They're all worth different points. To cash them in for points. There's a couple other things the different icons do that I'm drawing a blank on right now. After you've gone to your first town and done several performances there, then all of a sudden the basic tiles come out of the game and the advanced tiles come into the game. And they're just more expensive tiles that you can buy and add to your circus. The rewards are better than the basic tiles. But you're just basically trying to build your circus and move your spotlight around. When you move your spotlight off of one tile and onto another, you have to put a little "sorry, we're closed" token on the one that it just left. And you can't go back to that tile until you pick up and move to another town. Then the twist to this game is you're moving a little, carnival barker from one day to the next. Well, when he gets down to the last 5 days of the last big city, then you only have half-day performances. And what that means is you can either take money, build, or acquire tiles, or you can move your spotlight around and gather those rewards. You can't do both for the last 5 turns of the game. And I decided I don't like half-days. But this game had one other mechanic to it in that every time you change towns, there's this array of characters that you can choose from, and each character gives you a different benefit. Also, each character decides what turn order is. So the lower characters, their abilities aren't quite as good as the higher numbered characters, but they allow you to go first in turn order. And there's one character that allows you to pull tiles out of the bag. You pull 3 tiles out of the bag every single turn. Well, you can't do that unless you get that. I mean, you can do that with that character, but if you don't have that character, then you can't do that unless you have an icon on your circus board that allows you to do that. Frank and I have never played this game before, and we didn't realize, even though Dwayne told us, there's no no dissing Dwayne on his rules explanation. He did a good job. It's just when you're first learning a game, it's hard to take in all the different rules.
Oh, yeah.
And he did tell us that tiles that aren't built are worth a point at the end of the game. Well, it kind of went in one ear and out the other, and so we didn't realize it. And then when we came to scoring, Dwayne's been getting this one character that allows him to pull tiles every single time, because we thought these other characters we were getting were pretty cool. And he had stacks of tiles that he hadn't built in front of him. Ending score was something like 53 to 56 to 110.
Wow.
So it was kind of a runaway leader mechanic. Now, to be fair, we could have mitigated that because we were lower in the turn order. He had a character whose turn order was like 11 or 7 or 6 or something. It was way high in the turn order. And ours were like 3 and 5. So we could have taken that away from him, but we didn't realize the value of it. We were so busy trying to add to our circus to get more benefits, when really all you need to do is set up this little beneficial loop that you're moving your spotlight in over the course of about 5 turns. And that would get us our benefits, get people in the bleachers, move people up the bleachers, cash them out for points. So we didn't realize that he was having a runaway leader mechanic until it came to scoring. It's a very thematic game. With the exception of that one runaway leader mechanic, I really enjoyed the game. Now that I know about it, you can bet I'm not going to let him get that character every single time the next time we play.
Yeah.
Because of that one little thing, and there's nothing really to balance it out. There's no character that you can get that's going to cancel that or prevent it or anything like that. And also based on the fact that there wasn't anything you could do to sabotage anybody else's circus. This is very much a sandbox game. You're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing, and neither the twain shall meet. I thought it was a pretty good game, except for that one runaway leader mechanic. So my rating on this game, on Little Circuses, is about a 3.5. Would I play it again? Yes, I would. Because now I can see more strategy to it. I'm not going to let Dwayne or anybody else run away with the game going forward. But yeah, having that one mechanic in there kind of brought down the rating for me from a solid 4 to a 3.5.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a game with a lot of tactics, and then you have to think about the strategy, because it's the end when you only have basically half turns. You have to consider, have I got everything set up for the end game, and what my plan's going to be. So yeah, that sounds thinky.
Right.
So I'd be interested to try it.
It is. And I like thinky games, and it's also very thematic, which of course I like that too. And like I said, I would play this again, and my rating may change when I play it again. Maybe there is a way to overcome that mechanic, as long as, the other players in the game understand what this mechanic means at the end of the game. Then I think it could be mitigated, because that person is going to choose last. So anybody who's choosing first is going to be able to snatch that away and get the benefit of it for themselves.
Yeah.
So there is a way around it. And like I said, my rating may change with more plays, but right now that's where it stands at 3.5 for Little Circuses. It was designed by Kevin Wilson and published by IDW.
Cool.
So what else have you gotten to the table?
Well, back in September, I purchased and played My Little Scythe.
I've been wondering about that one. Somebody recommended it to me for Walker Land, and I'm like, okay, I know it's Scythe for kids, but 3.5, 4, I'm not too sure about. So tell me about it.
Are you familiar with Scythe at all? Let's start with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I believe his name is Hobie Chu, and his daughter's name is Vienna. He wanted to create a Scythe that he could play with her. So this started out as a print and play a couple years ago. And this guy harvested materials from various My Little Pony storybooks and themed games to get all these pony figures, and then he made this elaborate map, and this became, instead of a diesel punk post-World War I Europa, it turned into a magical landscape of My Little Ponies collecting apples and crystals to become the best pony in the land. And Jamie Stegmaier from Stonemaier Games is so taken by this. It won the print and play game of the year for the BGG Awards.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah, so it was amazing.
I do think I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, I eventually collected all the digital files for it, which became hard to find. They disappeared one day, and that's because Stonemaier Games is planning on publishing it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they basically scrubbed off the Hasbro IP because that IP is expensive, I can only imagine.
I can imagine.
So they came up with their own little world. Basically, you control two little characters called Seekers. Unlike Scythe, the only two units you have are your two characters. And these Seekers can basically do everything that all the units in Scythe can do. They go around the board, they can gather resources, apples and crystals, they can go on quests and such. And you're trying to basically become the champion of this festival. But if you're familiar with Scythe, everything else, you have to unlearn a couple of things, but beyond that, you've got 80% of the game already. So on your turn, you're going to move your action pawn on your board to select one of basically 6 actions. There's 3 categories, move, seek, and make, but there's 2 different seek actions and 3 different make actions. And like Scythe, you can't take the same action twice in a row, and there's no variable player powers to break that rule. So moving's pretty self-explanatory. You can move your Seekers around. On Seek, basically unlike Scythe, since you don't have workers in areas, resources are not generated by a work action. Instead, you roll dice. There's 2 different types, one leaning more towards apples, one leaning more towards crystals. So you would roll 2 of one type, 1 of another, and then 1 quest die. And they have 6 different colors on these sides, representing the 6 different regions on the board. So that determines where the resources get dropped. So say you rolled an apple to go in the brown region, the yellow region, and the green, and a crystal in the green region, and a quest in the gray region. And you can put those pretty much, quests have some limitations on where you can put them, but you can put them anywhere you want. The cool thing is, if you're in that region, you can drop them right on your Seeker, and now you have control of them and can carry them around. You can also give them to an opponent's Seeker in that region if they happen to be there, and that increases your friendship, which is basically popularity in this game. And once you get your popularity to a certain level, that gives you basically a trophy to collect. Much like the original Scythe, you're trying to collect X number of achievements during the game. This only goes up to 4 of those, so it's a much shorter game.
Oh, okay.
Friendship's one of those tracks. We'll talk about the others briefly. Then there's 3 make actions. You can use 2 apples to make more pies. Pies are basically your military power in this game, as you're baking pies, because if 2 characters from opposing factions meet up, there's going to be a pie fight. The pies represent your power, and once you get that up to a certain track, you get a trophy for it. You also have spell cards, which represent basically the power cards from the original Scythe. You can summon more pies magically with these spell cards, and you can use a make action and burn 2 crystals to make a spell card. And so when you fight, you have the dial that you select how many pies you're going to throw, and then you can tack on a spell card to magically conjure more pies. And whoever has the most pies wins the pie fight. And I forget who ties go to, but they have a rule for that. Like Scythe, if you lose, you just get sent back home. It's no big deal. You're still in the game. There's no player elimination, so that's awesome. The last make action is you can burn a crystal and an apple to upgrade either your move or your make action. This is very similar to going to the center of the board in Scythe to get a new action to tack onto your board. This just upgrades your move or make action. And the move, there's a bunch. You draw 3, you pick 1. Same with make. With the make upgrade, you're going to be able to do something cheaper. With the move upgrade, you get some wacky move mechanic, like one I think is a mechanical frog that lets you leap to a certain spot on the board, like where there's resources, you can jump any number to get there. Some of the other trophies you can collect for the game, winning a pie fight does that, friendship, pies, getting a number of pie cards, completing a number of quests, delivering 4 apples to the castle in the center, delivering 4 crystals to the castle in the center, and a couple of others that slip my mind. But there's basically 8 categories. You just need to get 4. The quests in this game are very cute. They're not as breaking because more quests can get generated on the board. They're not as strong or as breaking as they can be in Scythe, especially if I think you're the Crimean faction in Scythe, the one that can basically choose 2 of the 3 options in the quest. And that can lead them to getting if you let them collect a lot of quests, they will build up a lot of resources quickly, including mechs and stuff. In My Little Scythe, there's 3 options. They usually require some sort of payment. And there's always a third option, which is no thank you, and then you just put the quest on the bottom of the card, and then you usually gain 1 resource of 1 type for saying no thank you. So if you can't, so if you can't fulfill the quest, it's not out of the game, and it's not a huge loss. It's not a waste of turn. So basically, when 1 or more players have earned their 4th trophy, the tournament enters its grand finale. Continuing the turn order, each other player takes, without 4 trophies, takes 1 final turn, and then once all the turns are resolved, the player with 4 trophies is crowned the winner and the new ruler of Pomme, which is the name of the place. Pomme being the French word for apple. It's a very cute game. It is basically Scythe Light. My 6-year-old daughter likes it. She, with a little help, she understood what she needed to do. We gave her all the suggestions in the world, and she loved it. There are 7 different factions. Each pair are like siblings, I believe. They look exactly the same, but the color of plastic slightly darker on the other one. They even have a little sheet that's a painting guide that has all of their names on it and talks all about the kingdom that they're from. Much like Scythe, there's a lot of theme and story built into this game. And seeing how they had to make all this up from scratch because they couldn't use the My Little Pony IP, they did an excellent job. This is a kid's game, this is a family game, but if you're looking for a feel of Scythe but don't want to spend 2 hours getting it, this takes an hour or less once you get the hang of it. It's a lot of fun. Probably casual gamers would love it. I would certainly play it if anyone recommended it. It's like, I feel like playing My Little Scythe. I'm like, great, let's break it out and do it.
Nice.
I originally said I was going to give this game a 4. Overall, that's what I have to give it. Now, if you have kids and you want to introduce them to a strategy game without getting into like some heavy war game, area control, player elimination nonsense, or if you want a light adventuring game, this game fits all of those bills. If you have casual gamers and you want to introduce them, they're not ready for Scythe, but I think they can handle this, and they kind of like cutesy things. This is certainly good. It's a 5 depending on your audience, but overall it's a 4 game.
That's fair.
And like I said, I'd play this. If anyone wanted to play this, I would definitely take them up on the offer. It's a good game.
Nice. What age group would you recommend this for?
Well, my 6-year-old can handle it with help. And I was looking at that on BGG. The official age range is 8 and up, but the community says it's 6 and up, and I tend to agree with the community. You got a first grader in your household who can understand some basic math, and you want to teach them some basic strategy and some basic game rules. A 6-year-old could handle this, sure.
Nice. Okay, so a couple years off for Walker Lynn yet.
Yeah, but
she's about to turn 4 in December.
Yeah, enjoy those times too. They go fast.
Oh, I do. I am. Yeah, right now I'm a little sad because her mom's on maternity leave, so she doesn't need me to come out and take care of her on that one weekend a month. And my weekends are taken right now with work anyway, so that makes me sad too.
Yeah.
Like I said, her mom's on maternity leave, which means she's scheduled to have the baby at the end of October. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
So I am looking forward to getting back to being able to take care of my sweet niece. And when I do get back to it, it will be my sweet nieces because they know that they're having another girl. So, excellent. All right. So that's My Little Scythe. And Jesse gives it a 4/5, depending on the audience.
Yeah.
All right. Fantastic.
I'm excited about this game. I want to hear about what else you've got lined up. So,
well, the other day we saved the world from being taken over by Cthulhu. We played Elder Sign: Omens of the Deep. And that is an expansion for Elder Sign. If you've never played Elder Sign, let me go over that first. It is a Cthulhu game. Cthulhu-themed game from the H.P. Lovecraft series. I think it's a series of books. I haven't read it myself. And in it, you are playing investigators at the Arkham Museum. Arkham is not only a city or an insane asylum in Gotham City, it's also a town in the Cthulhu mythos. Anyway, it's a neat game. It's a horror-themed game. It has a Yahtzee mechanic. You are trying to investigate and keep the old ones, the elder gods, from rising and devouring the world. You go into these challenges, these rooms in the museum, and you roll these dice, and you're trying to basically investigate or cast spells and overcome these terrors and things like that. If you're able to roll the dice in such a way that you get the symbols you need to defeat this challenge, then you collect the challenge as a trophy. Trophies can be used to heal you. They can be used to get spells or items that will help you defeat future challenges. Omens of the Deep expansion basically adds a new adventure to the game. Now, this isn't a legacy game. You can replay these over and over and over again. In this case, we chose to go up against Cthulhu. That was the elder god we pitched, and Frank and Dwayne looked at me and said, "You realize Cthulhu is rated as insane, right?" I went, "Yeah, and?" And they looked at Mark and they go, "You know she's crazy, right?" And he goes, "Oh yeah. I've been with her for 20 years. I know she's crazy." Anyway, we went up against this. If you fail an adventure or a challenge, then you get a Doom token on the Doom track. And that can either, it adds a Doom token to the Doom track, no big deal, or it can add a monster to the board, or it can add what's called a deep one, which is basically one of the other elder gods comes up to smack you around for a while. If you get 11 Doom tokens on the Doom track, Cthulhu rises and devours you all. Game over. What you're trying to do is gather 15 elder signs, which they're pentacles that you're trying to get. And those 15 elder signs will keep Cthulhu at the bottom of the sea. We managed to get 15 elder signs with still 4 spaces on the Doom track.
Good job.
So that's pretty good. Not quite nail biting, but getting to where we're looking at our fingers going, yeah, we don't need the tips anymore. That's okay. One thing I love about Elder Sign in general, and this adventure, this expansion in particular, is that it is very thematic, and it does generate that stress of, oh my goodness, we've got to keep this from happening. And so you're all working together. You're taking turns, but it's a cooperative game. You're all working together to try and keep this elder god from rising. And it does get intense because you realize, you've got this decision. Do you do this or do you do this? Because the consequences are this over here. The consequences are this if you do this other choice. There's also a mechanic where after everybody's turn, the clock advances 3 hours. And when the clock strikes midnight, there are consequences to be paid. You pull a card and it usually, that's where you get the choices. You can do this or you can do this. And they're both bad. It's just which bad do you want? Occasionally it'll come up and say, there's no consequences tonight. And you're like, phew, all right, good, let's continue. There are things that can advance the clock. We had one challenge. In this particular adventure, the challengers come onto the table face down. So you don't know what the challenge is before you turn it over. But if you turn it over, you have to do it. On some of them, on the back of the cards, there are consequences for that side of the card being face up at midnight. But on other cards, there's a consequence for turning the card over. It may bring up a deep one. There may be an entry cost you have to pay. Maybe you lose a trophy, or you lose 2 sanity or a health or something like that. So you have to pay the price to turn the card over, and then you have to deal with what's on the other side. One of the challenges was like, okay, you need to pay a skull, which is one of the symbols on the dice. But when you pay that skull, you advance the clock twice.
Oof.
So it goes from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock. And then you roll and you have to provide a scroll, but then you also have to advance the clock 2 more times. So we literally went from midnight to midnight in one person's turn. And he failed the challenge. So then we had to deal with that as well, which I think that gave us a Doom token on the Doom track, and it advanced the clock again. So that one was a little hairy. We never beat that one. We didn't beat that one. Nobody went back to that one after Dwayne went to that one once. But like I said, we won. So yay, the world's still here. Cthulhu's sealed in his underground city, or under ocean city, for a little while longer. I had a great time with it. I personally give Elder Sign a 5. I give this one a 4. I'm only giving it a 4 because I've only played it the one time. I would definitely like to explore the other 2 Elder Gods that are included in that adventure. I'd like to explore this adventure a little more. We didn't get all the way through the deck. There is a similar adventure in the app. It's one of the expansions in the app, I believe. And it's pretty difficult to beat. I was telling Mark, I beat it just before you and I got on to record tonight. So literally in the last 2 days, I've saved the world from Cthulhu twice. But very much a fun game. This particular expansion was designed by Dane Beltrami, and it was published by Fantasy Flight Games. I'm a fan of quite a few of the things that Fantasy Flight has done, and Elder Sign is one of them that I give 2 thumbs up. I would give Elder Sign a 5 for sure. And this one, right now, it's a 4. Might go up. Might definitely go up. Very
cool.
Have you ever played Elder Sign, Jesse?
Yes, I have played a lot of the games in the Arkham Horror line from Fantasy Flight Games. It's kind of a neat comparison with Elder Sign, Arkham Horror, Eldritch Horror, and Mansions of Madness. It's very similar in theme and feel, but how you go about it is very different. In Elder Sign, base game, you're exploring a museum, and it has, like you said, a Yahtzee mechanic with lots of rerolls, and most of the powers are about modifying those rolls. Arkham Horror is exploring the city of Arkham, again looking for elder signs and stopping the creature from coming into the world. And Mansions of Madness is very thematic, dungeon crawly, investigatory, but again, you're doing this...
That has a traitor mechanic, doesn't it?
Not necessarily. If you go...
Oh, no, that's Betrayal at House on the Hill.
Yeah, with Mansions of Madness, if you go mad and lose all your sanity, you get a madness card, and one of them is you're trying to tank the game, I believe.
Ah, okay.
So,
okay.
Or you have to do something else that's not exactly beneficial to the group. I think one of them is Pyromania, where you start setting the whole house on fire, and that's good if you're trying to put up a barrier with monsters, bad if you're trying to do things. So I really do like the Arkham Horror series, and I've mentioned this before. Lovecraft is not my favorite IP, but I will always play it because as far as a good horror IP goes, it's good, and Fantasy Flight does a knockout job with their IP work.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
they do.
So yeah, it's a fun game. If someone said, let's play it, I'm like, cool, let's do it.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I have played Arkham Horror. I haven't played Eldritch Horror. I haven't played Mansions of Madness yet, but I do enjoy Elder Sign. I enjoy Arkham Horror as well. It's just that's one of those games that you need a Saturday to play.
Yeah, Elder Sign gives you all of that in 60 to 90 minutes in a much lighter feel. Whereas Arkham Horror, it's taking up at least the one time I played and I owned the game, it was a 4.5 hour ordeal because it was our first game, and it's like, games in that time space, there are other games I'd rather play.
Now, yeah. My friend Frank owns it, and he owns all the expansions for it, and so the one time I played it, we played it with all of the expansions. Oh. And that was an 8-hour day, but it was fun.
Oh yeah,
I had a great time with it. You know, anybody that listens to the show for any length of time knows that I have no problem with multiple hour games. You know, with 4, 6, 8 hour games, I'm fine with it. I would absolutely play Arkham Horror again. I would like to try Eldritch Horror and Mansions of Madness. I just haven't come across them yet.
Yeah, Elder Sign is a good game, and Omens of the Deep sounds really good. So
yeah, I'm playing this one right now specifically because I needed something for my 52 game challenge where weather was a factor.
Yeah.
And you're on the Pacific Ocean, and yes, there is a monsoon in it. And we did come across the monsoon. So that made it eligible for that particular requirement on my 52 game challenge. So that is Elder Sign, Omens of the Deep expansion, and that's what we've been playing. We have set up and been referring to and rating games by our own rating scale. Here's how we are using this scale. 5. Buy this now. 4. A good solid game. 3. Decent with some bugs. 2. Has great potential as kindling. And 1. Give me back the time I spent playing it. Today, I am pleased to welcome Diane and Nick Sauer to the show. Actually, I should say welcome Diane back to the show. She visited with me in episode 52, where we talked about her game, Bigfoot vs. Yeti. Today, Diane and Nick are here to tell me about their new game, Born to Serve. Diane and Nick, welcome to our turn.
Hello, how you doing? Thanks for having me back.
Thank you for having me.
Well, welcome to both of you. Nick, as I said when we met Diane in episode 52, please tell me a little bit about you.
Okay, well, I've been gaming. I got into hobby gaming right around 1977. My first game was Warp War. It's an old micro game. If people know what those are. Melee and Wizard and Ogre are probably the most famous of those. But I've been pretty much gaming since then. I did a lot of role playing early on. Went through the whole Magic thing, of course, and eventually hooked up with Diane, and we started designing games. What, like 10 years ago, I guess, or
something like that.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Your new game is Born to Serve, and it's about superheroes, but with a little bit of a twist. Tell me about it.
Your superheroes, which is the good news. The bad news is you just lost your funding for your supergroup, so now you are unemployed superheroes, but you need to get a real job to maintain your superheroic lifestyle. So the only job available in your little town, which is probably why you lost your funding, your sort of third tier superheroes, is there's a restaurant owner who will hire one of you as a wait staff. And so he's willing to let you all be waiters for one night. Whoever gets the most tips gets the job. And then I guess, the rest of you stay unemployed superheroes.
Uh-oh.
So and hence the double meaning of the name, Born to Serve, like a superhero, and Born to Serve like a waiter or waitress.
It's a great concept. It's a different idea. Where did you get this idea from?
Well, it's funny. Normally I do games. I'm more of a mechanics type guy myself. I actually come up with a mechanic, and Diane's job is to sort of build a theme around it. But this one was actually just came to me whole cloth one day. I don't know. I guess maybe the Great Recession sort of put the idea in my head. I've always been obsessed with superheroes. I've read comic books pretty much my entire life. And I guess between that and the Great Recession, just got the idea, wouldn't it be really funny if, the government just decided to stop funding a superhero group like the Avengers, because they always hint that, the Avengers, S.H.I.E.L.D. and stuff, there's all these big government-funded super groups. And, they said, we got to save money, so guess what happened? Guess what goes first, So,
I kind of thought of it as it's kind of in the vein of something like, The Tick, if you know The Tick, or maybe Dr. Harble's sing-along blog,
I love those.
That kind of has a funny, humorous take on the superhero genre.
Yeah. So I actually ended up building the game completely around a theme, which is backwards from how I normally design. So,
I always wondered when superheroes battle evildoers and there's a whole lot of damage to whatever city or town they're in, a la, the Avengers or Man of Steel, this little town got completely trashed. Who pays for the cleanup?
Yeah, that's one thing I've always think. I've run a few superhero role playing games, and in one of them, actually, one of the requirements was that you had to, if you're going to be a superhero, you had to actually have insurance.
Oh wow! Okay,
trying to make it sort of more tied to the real world.
I saw a discussion after Avengers came out that the insurance companies were off the hook for the damage to New York City because Thor and Loki were involved. It was considered an act of God.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's good.
That's good.
So anyway, I love the superheroes. Can you tell me about the superheroes you've got in your game?
Yeah, we have, well, there's 10 superheroes. Unlike a lot of superhero games where it's mostly male dominated, I wanted to be sure that we had a nice even split with male and female superheroes.
Excellent.
There's 5 women and 5 men. There's Adam Amp, who was a roadie who got superpowers. Ms. Twister, who was a weather forecaster. Princess Charming, everybody likes her. She was bitten by a radioactive panda. And, her charming personality became even more irresistible. So, like, all of her powers kind of center around her charming people and being able to do things other people aren't doing. Like, you can only place your tokens, only one token on this particular staff card, but she'll come in and be able to place her token there too because, she's so charming. She's like, I know there's a rule and everything, but can't I just place it here anyway? So that's kind of her powers.
The human pinball was involved in a freak pinball machine accident. And his powers are he can move stuff around, basically bounce around, sort of.
Oh, you got to have pinball in there.
Exactly.
Yeah, we definitely. We always try to have some kind of crossover of some sort between the games, some kind of Easter eggs or something.
Just for people who may not remember, Diane and Nick run a pinball repair shop. You're still doing that, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. That's Diane. That's
so that.
Job, yep.
Nick is actually a scientist.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I work in telecom. Yeah, electrical engineers are more fun. Is what I like to say.
Nice. Well, that sounds great. Your campaign on Kickstarter is live now through November 1st, and you're more than halfway to your goal, which is fantastic. When it funds, what's the timeline after that? When can people expect to have a copy of the game in their hands?
Well, we always try to work it so that we have the ideal way to work, and I should say that we try to work it, and we've been successful so far, is to have it delivered like before convention season next summer, and then release it at Origins. Okay. So like the backers will have it before then, but it will get officially released and go in, and distributors and all that. People will be able to pick them up at that point.
Nice. What stage is the production in right now? Is the artwork done? Is it ready to go to the manufacturers?
The artwork's done. The rule book's still, that's like about the rule book's written. That's not but the layout,
the graphic design
of the rule books is, and I think the back of the box. Those are the last 2 graphic design things that need to be finished up. The majority of it is ready to go.
Yeah, you'll see a rough look of what it's like on the Kickstarter, but you have to keep in mind that these are prototype components. So like the staff are cards in the demo, but they're actually going to be tiles in the game.
Right.
Oh, nice.
The Fortress of Loneliness is going to be tiles. The hero cards are going to be actually big, thicker cards. So, I mean, the game's going to weigh 2 pounds when all said and done. So
the scoreboard, the score marker is actually a folding board. The first hero marker, we have a first hero marker instead of a first player marker. And Nick mentioned the Fortress of Loneliness, which is where your service markers are stored, like your little personal,
energy supply, as it were.
Yeah, but like for your back cave, basically. But of course, in our case, since we're not great superheroes, we have like a storage locker is what it looks like.
That's great.
Yeah, so there's a couple of other of cool things in there.
Nice. It sounds like it's going to have pretty good component quality, and the art is just completely amusing. Well, I wish you luck on this. Since starting this podcast, I've learned that all game designers have a variety of games in various stages of design. So after you get done with this project, what's next for Shoot Again Games and the two of you?
One thing that for sure is coming is an expansion to Pinball Showdown.
Take it to 5 players.
Basically, it will expand it to 5 players. It will do some things with Wizard Mode. It will do some other fancy things with that. It will add new devices and a few other things. Possibly a solitaire version will come out of that too. That is either going to be next or maybe the thing after. We're not sure. You want to talk about the other one that we're working on?
Well, there's two, kind of.
Yeah,
but Crime Monster is a game where you're basically monsters in this little podunk town in Europe somewhere, right? And the basic gimmick is the town folk have gotten fed up with your shenanigans, so they're going after one of you. So you're all in hiding. No one knows which monster is who, but you're trying to sort of rat each other out as the monster on the wanted poster that round. Go through multiple rounds of this. And
one of the kind of unique and neat things about that, like normally in like a lot of social deduction games, it's a one shot social deduction thing, right? You accuse somebody, that's it. But the way it works is every player has a number of torches which represent the villagers, and every round people put their torches on whatever player, okay, that they want. Obviously, they're trying to identify the actual monster that's on the wanted poster. And as those torches get on there, the monster that's being affected gets more and more angry and therefore gets more and more powerful. So it's kind of...
Yeah. And you each have your own cadre of villagers. So you get your points based on, you're sort of like putting these villagers down and like, well, they're sort of like gambling. I hope this is the guy because you get more points actually if you nail the right guy, obviously.
Ah, okay. Wow, that sounds cool too. You guys come up with some great ideas.
Some companies have like a set... we do these type of games, whatever.
Tiny Epic.
That's a good example of one. We kind of just do unusual themes. I think that's our
that's your métier, huh?
Yes. Yeah. And the other game
is All the Treats. It's Halloween. You're spilled out the candy. You're trying to grab the most treats and to get the most points. And it's a card-driven tile placement.
Nice.
Right.
Well, wonderful. It sounds like you've got a lot going on.
Yes.
Yeah, we try to keep pokers in the fire.
Excellent. So if people want to connect with you online, how do they go about doing that?
Our basic information is on Twitter. It's at Shoot Again Games. On Facebook, Shoot Again Games. We also, our website is shootagaingames.com. For Born to Serve, obviously you can find it on Kickstarter, or you can just go to borntoservegame.com.
Excellent. And we'll have links to all of those in our show notes. And you can find those by going to ourturnpodcast.com/episode 86. Diane and Nick, thank you for coming on and telling us about your new project. I wish you the best of luck on it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Hey everyone, this is Sarah Reed, and today I'm interviewing Daniel Bishop, founder of Tiger Crab Studios and designer of Nevera Duels, which is currently on Kickstarter until October 31st, 2018. Hello Daniel, and welcome to Our Turn.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So glad to have you here. So why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and your game?
So my day job is I teach second grade public school, and on the side I design games and write for comic books and a few other small creative outlets. The game itself is a deck construction game, which generally means that you get all of the cards in the box that you need to play. There's no like buying blind booster packs or anything like that. I'd like to call it a living card game, but but Fantasy Flight Games owns that phrase. But you get the idea.
Yeah.
It's Necromancer themed, so both players take on the role of necromancers. They summon undead minions to combat each other. They can upgrade those minions, and the goal of the game is to destroy 8 of your opponent's minions.
Wow, that sounds intense. So where did the idea for this Necromancer deck building game come from?
Well, originally I started work on a RPG monster collection video game some years ago, and that's kind of rumbling along slowly in the background, again kind of necromancer themed, because I thought, well, what would be a good theme for a monster collection game that I haven't seen for a while and might be suitable for a slightly older audience. And that's still kind of going along in the background, working with like my artist to kind of slowly build up the assets for that. And so while I'm waiting for parts of that to fall into place, I thought, oh, thought like an extra avenue for that could be a card game that also might, in the long run, attract interest to the video game as I'm kind of fleshing out this world building in a various mediums, I guess I could call it.
Yeah, the crossover with the card games and video games, it's being done in a lot of different arenas. So that's a really cool connection that you can make between the card game that's you're doing right now and the future video game.
Yeah.
That's cool. So what would you say is the best part of Nevera Duels?
Best part, I think, is probably the strategy side of things. A lot of people have, like in playtesting and at conventions I've gone to, a lot of people have said they enjoy the strategy of building your own deck out of the various different minions on offer. Every minion has 4 abilities, and so like there's a lot of decisions to make when it comes to creating your own deck, and it can be very personal too. I've spent a lot of time trying to balance things as best I can to make sure everything is viable and kind of competitive. And in the game itself, there's enough decision-making room to make interesting decisions and tactical options without kind of analysis paralysis or getting too overwhelmed. There's kind of a good balance in there that I feel like I've hit based on feedback from other players.
That's good. So it's accessible to newer gamers, but still gives something for those hardcore gamers that really want to dig in deep.
Yeah, exactly. And I've had positive feedback from a lot of individuals who've never played things like Magic the Gathering or the Pokemon tactical card game, who are not familiar with those kinds of games. I've had a lot of positive feedback from people who aren't familiar with those games. And so so that's been a big point of pride for me, is that it's accessible to people who aren't familiar with that genre.
That's good. And speaking of accessibility, one thing that's important to me as a gamer and designer is making games accessible. What did you do to improve the accessibility of Nevera Duels?
So that was always a big at the front. That was always at the front of my mind going into this as a designer. I mean, I teach second grade, so like day in, day out, I'm used to kind of trying to find ways of making information and lessons and materials accessible to like a lot of different mindsets, students with challenges or students with a second language, that kind of thing. So like thinking about that and having that at the front of my brain came kind of naturally. Helping make it accessible. So like a big part of it was like the layout of the card. I wanted to make sure that the information on the card, because there was always going to be a lot of information on the card, that was easy as possible to read. So the balance between text and icons, graphically making sure that there's enough contrast between the text and the background and the illustration to make sure it's clear and as easy as possible to read with the amount of information on there. Trying to make sure it's portable. I wanted people to be able to make their own decks and to be able to put it in like a small deck box and carry it with them, so it's not overly cumbersome and very portable and social. Physically, I have a lot of the information laid out on the left side of the card and the illustration on the right side of the card. So instead of like typically like the information is in the bottom half of a card, but I thought if I put all the information on the left side, then if you fan the cards out in your hand, you can actually see all of the information that's pertinent to the cards kind of in one go as you fan them out in your hand. So I thought that was like an interesting decision.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that in games, and I think it's brilliant because you are in a lot of these games and in your game holding cards, and if it's all across the bottom, you have to pull that card out of your hand of cards to even read the whole thing, and yet you've got it, so you just have to simply fan it open a little bit more, and you've got everything you need to know right there.
Yeah. So There's a long journey with designing the damage counters. So each creature accumulates damage throughout the game. They don't lose health, they build up damage. That makes sense for when you kind of upgrade your creature, they retain the damage they've already gotten. And I went through many different designs with that. I started off with just like 2 D10s that you could rotate to like show, and of course if you bump the table they go rolling and it's very fiddly. I had like different kinds of damage trackers. I had like wheels, that's not the right word, but not spinners, but
yeah, I know what you mean. It's a round track. I'm not thinking of the right word either.
and like various different ways, and they're all kind of very slidey or like physically very difficult to kind of use and not comfortable. And so I went through various different designs with that to get to where I am now, which is just a card which will also fit in the deck box, which is nice, with 2 clips on it. You just slide the clips up and down the side, and physically it's just so much nicer. And, but that took a long time to get to.
Yeah, I'm surprised more games don't do the clips on cards. I mean, maybe because it's such a simple solution, but I've seen that more, and I see it in prototypes, and then when it gets to the final game, it's gone. And I'm like, but that was such an easy, like you said, very solid way to keep track that if you drop it, it's still attached and it's not going to move unless you really fling it across the table or something.
I knew a lot of things I didn't want to do, like with the Pokemon tactical card game, they're actually physical tokens with like 5, 10, 50, 100 on them, and you just like pile them on top of your Pokemon to track. And like, so there's a lot of things I knew I didn't want to do, and there's coin flipping elements in some games to resolve 50-50 chances, and I knew that wasn't a great option. So the tactile element and just having things being like physically easy to use was always important to me.
Well, it sounds like you really approached this as the whole thing, you just want it to be accessible. And that's great, because the other thing that I find very accessible about your game is the cost. So why don't you tell me about how much it costs to get the base game, if you have any special pledge levels, and when you're expecting to deliver?
Sure. So for $19, including US shipping, you can get the core game, which has enough cards for 4 players to make their own deck. And with that, you'll also get enamel pin and some digital comic books that are also set in the same universe. Up from that, there's for $29, you can get some like special components, so some upgraded components. For $49, you can get an original piece of artwork. So the artist I work with on my comic books, he's worked with me in a lot of the creature concepts, and he will make a unique original piece of art for everyone at $49 and up. And just recently for $69, I'm offering a digital and physical, I call it a pocket Necronomicon, which is going to be like a small book, like a booklet with all of the creature illustrations without the text and graphic layout, some lore, so like background of the world, background of the creatures, little vignettes, like short stories that take place in the world. So like a little kind of companion / almost like a botanist's kind of like pocketbook, but for undead creatures.
Wow, that's really amazing. And I have to say, the artwork is it's hard for me. I'm not really good with horror, but this is suitably creepy. It in a good way. It is solid artwork, and a little booklet like that, it just sounds awesome.
Thank you. I tried to kind of make everything, like I say, as accessible as possible. One of the benefits of doing this as a hobby instead of like a business, I guess, is that I can break even and still, have a great time on it. I don't need to kind of strive for a profit as such. Oh yeah,
that's kind of like how me and Will do it. We're here to have fun, make a good product. Breaking even is the goal. So when did you currently expect to deliver the product?
Either towards the end of January or beginning of February, I'm hoping to. Component-wise, it's a relatively simple game. It's just cards, a couple of dice, rulebook, and some plastic clips. So physically, and it's very small too. So physically, I'm expecting it to be produced in a timely manner.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So what else do you have in the pipeline for Tiger Crab Studios? I mean, you talked about the video game, but do you have any other board games on the horizon?
Not at this time, no. I've produced 2 comic books also successfully through Kickstarter. And the plan is to make that a 5-part series. So I'm still working on the comic books on the side. My main skill is writing, so like I'm always going to go back to that.
Yeah.
The Pocket Necronomicon will be a lot of work, but they'll also be a lot of fun. So they'll be occupying a lot of my attention. And yeah, the video game long term, that's the kind of big end goal, is the kind of RPG, kind of 2-dimensional classic style top down kind of monster collection game is the long term goal.
Awesome. Well, did you have anything else that you would like to share with our audiences?
Sure. I would just say I've had a lot of experience working with artists now, both through the video game and comic books and other like concept art and so on for these projects. Working with artists has been like one of the most fun, if not the most fun part of these processes, because I could not do what these individuals do. I've been very lucky to work with Matthias Grief, who's done the illustration for the card game, Marek Jarocki, who's worked on the comic books with me, and yeah, it's it's taken several years, but like I've finally started to get good at thinking of myself as an art director, and as a if you're working on a board game or a card game and you're commissioning somebody, or you've contracted somebody to do the artwork for you, I think it's really useful to start thinking of yourself that way, like that individual is looking to you for direction. There's nothing worse than saying, what do you think it should look like? You know what I mean? And so, kind of leaning into that role, even with very little experience, has been a great learning curve and a lot of fun. Oh yeah, I totally agree with that. I've had the opportunity to work closely with the artist on one of our games too, and it's odd because at first you do just kind of want to tell the artist, just do whatever it is you want to do. But then when you get your first things back, you're like, oh, that's not what I was thinking. Okay, so I have to do a little bit more active role here. And it is a really interesting experience to work with an artist, to have a vision. And it's really awesome when you do have a vision and then they take it and just take it up to the next notch. It's amazing to see that come out. Absolutely. I mean, I had very kind of specific, kind of a very specific outline for the art for this game, including I wanted all of the minions to come across as gender neutral, like they could have been either male or female in life, as kind of part of the world building, because they're all undead, so like they're all skeletons or zombies or ghosts, and so it was a unique opportunity to be like, okay, this could have been anybody when they are alive, so let's try and really lean into the idea that like they literally could have been anybody. And so I worked very closely with my artist on that to try and get that across. But at the same time, he would surprise me with little things. Like I have a treant, like a giant kind of forest spirit, like in the typical kind of frame, but with a kind of necromancer edge to it, so it's all kind of mossy, and kind of some of the branches look like exposed ribs and stuff, so there's a lot of very very interesting design decisions there. And my artist put 2 heads on it. He gave it 2 heads, like just out of nowhere, and I looked at it and I was like, I don't know about this. And it didn't, like, none of the reference art I'd given him had 2 heads, and like I had kind of this very specific idea of what I wanted, and I just slept on it, and on the next day I looked at it and I was like, this is really, really good. I actually really like this. And, so it's important to give your artists very, very like well-defined parameters, I guess, or very well-defined direction, but also be open to little nuggets of creativity rather than the other way around, I guess. Yeah, totally. And I think that's great that you came at it with such an inclusive viewpoint of, these are the undead. You want it to be open so that they could have been anybody. And I think that's great, because for me, I feel too many times that was definitely a male skeleton. And I mean, that was definitely a guy in life. And it's like, if they're the undead, they kind of should be anybody and everybody. And so I love that concept of it's gender neutral, because otherwise artists sometimes tend to lean towards, well, the default
can be sometimes man.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, if you get an artist and who's willing to kind of work with you a lot on that, it's great. Like the artist who did the cover art for the box, his name is Josu Hernandez, and he actually works on Magic the Gathering illustrations. That's how I found him. So that's a nice little kind of Easter egg there. But the cover of the box has a necromancer on it. And I said, I want as possible for this individual to be androgynous. And he was like, great. And he came back with some different designs, and he was very happy to work on that with me. So I think it's very easy to do. People underestimate how easy that kind of inclusivity is to do, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. All right, well, it's about time to wrap it up. So how can people connect with you online?
So we're on all the regular areas, our website, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Google+. If you just search for Tiger Crab Studios, all my stuff will pop up. We have a blog that I put on every week with like design advice or world building advice or something like that. The Kickstarter is live until October 31st. It's spelled Nevera Duels, Duels.
All right. Thank you so much, Daniel, for taking the time to be on our turn. And listeners, I hope you'll check out Nevera Duels on Kickstarter and follow Daniel on social media.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
All right, so we're winding down this episode and looking ahead to what we've got on our schedules for the next couple of weeks. Jesse, what are you looking forward to?
Looking forward to a game day on Saturday with friends. Don't know what we'll do, but I'm sure we'll come up with something, and it'll be fun.
Darn it.
It will be fun. What I'm also looking forward to is I've had a rash of Kickstarter fulfillments hit my house in the last month, and I want to get some.
Nice.
Yeah, I want to get some to the table. So I backed Root, which is the new hotness from Letter Games.
I've heard good things about it.
Yeah, I think the downside is it's an asymmetrical game, so I have to learn all these parts and then teach them to other people. But once I get past that, it should be fun.
That's the one thing that's kept Vast from getting to my table is I need to learn all these roles so I can teach them.
Yeah. I just need to sit down with the mechanical marquee and play it solo with all the other factions and then be able to teach it. So,
okay.
But let's see what else is fulfilled. Sprawlopolis from Button Shy Games. It's my.
I am waiting for that to come in the mail, and I mentioned it to somebody on Twitter the other day, and Button Shy Games came on and said, "Oh, what's your backer number? Let me check." Yeah. And I told him my backer number. I haven't heard back yet, but I'm still patiently waiting.
Yeah.
So
Sprawlopolis was my first Button Shy game. I also got Circle the Wagons along with it, because hey, pocket-sized soloable games, that sounds cool. I got my fulfillment for the network's executives, which included a bunch of optional stuff in there. Networks is one of my top 3 games, most likely, if I had to rank them, and there's lots of cool things that came with this Kickstarter, so I'm excited about that. And then hopefully fulfilling within the relatively near future is a game I backed called Vinyl, which is, much like the Networks, it's a game that oozes with theme. It's about collecting records, which people who are under 35 probably would not appreciate the idea of collecting records. So it's a game about collecting certain genres, certain decades, and it's just like, oh my god, everything about this is very similar to the reasons I like the Networks. It was, I'm of a generation that would appreciate this genre and theme, and it looks really cool, and it was originally slated to be in November of this month. If it gets here within the next 6 months, I'll be happy. But yeah, I got plenty of stuff to try to get to my table in the next few weeks or months so it can take its time. So that's primarily what I'm looking forward to.
Nice.
How about you?
Yeah, I'm still waiting for Sprawlopolis to get here. I should probably go check the mail real quick and see if it's here, but the last time I checked it hasn't gotten here yet, so I'm waiting. And I haven't, is it coming, does it come in the mail?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe so.
All right. I haven't checked the mail in a couple of days, so I need to do that. Yeah, I've got some Kickstarters that I'm anxiously waiting on. Mostly I've been concentrating on working on my game challenges. I'm doing the 52 game challenge. I mentioned that earlier, and I have, I think, 4 games left on that one. So it being October and I've only got 4 games left, that's really exciting to me. One of them is a solo game, so I just need to sit down and figure that out. I'm not that much of a solo player, so that's why that one is kind of waited till the end. And then one of the games is a game that's won a BGG contest, I think, a specific BGG contest. And so I went and I found one that looks interesting to me. It's called Twilight Imperium Express. And so it's supposed to be, you know, a slimmed down version of Twilight Imperium that you could play in a couple hours.
Yeah, anything less than 6 hours is slimmed down for Twilight Imperium.
Hey, you know, I played Twilight Imperium 4th edition at RageCon, and we had 4 players, and it lasted 4.5 hours.
That's very good.
I was the only one who'd only played Twilight Imperium once. So I was playing it with some experienced players. They were really good at teaching me the game and helping me along with it. And it still only lasted 4.5 hours. And what was funny is they had scheduled it from 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. So the guy that was hosting it was like, I've got this table till midnight. What else do you want to play? So I've got 4 games left on this, and I'm excited that I'm almost done. My 100 by 1 challenge, I'm at 85 games played for the year, 85 unique games. So yeah, I'm chugging along on that. My friends on my Tuesday game group are being very supportive and very tolerant of, okay, I need to play this game and here's why. They're like, who cares why? Let's just play this game. They don't do the challenges. And then I've completed the alphabet challenge, so I'm pleased with that. So
cool.
Anyway, that's what I've been concentrating on lately, is trying to get these 3 challenges done before the end of the year. So where can people find you online, Jesse?
Well, easiest places to find me are on Twitter. I'm at Jess Metcalf, JESMETCALF. And I'm also on Board Game Geek as MadcapCH. And that's where you can find me. Nice.
And you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Our Turn Podcast. And I also manage the guild on BoardGameGeek.com, which is guild number 2600. And Sarah Reed manages our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Our Turn Podcast. That's where you can find us. Jesse, thank you so much for joining me for this episode today. I always love having you on.
Well, thanks. It's always great to be here.
On behalf of the entire Our Turn Podcast crew, until next time, that was our turn.
Now it's yours.
Thank you for listening. This episode was recorded on October 18th, 2018, and is written and produced by Cathy Ford and Jesse Metcalf with assistance from Sarah Reed, Diane and Nick Sauer, Daniel Bishop, and Mark Ford. We want and encourage your questions, comments, and feedback. Please call 916-426-2873 and leave us a short voicemail, or send an email to feedback@ourturnpodcast.com. Our theme music was composed by Adriana Crickle. Incidental music was provided by Purple Planet Music. Please check out our show notes to learn more about these talented artists. The material in this episode is copyrighted under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. If you want to learn more about the games discussed in this episode, please visit our website at ourturnpodcast.com/episode 86. You can find a list of the games along with links to their listing on BoardGameGeek.com. We are proud members of the Dice Tower Network. You can find out about other shows in the network like Board Gamers Anonymous, The Broken Meeple, or Boards and Swords by going to dicetowernetwork.com. Thank you for your support. If you like what you heard, please tell your friends about us.